Welcome back, it's Smashbots here, and before I start with this video, I just wanted to say thank you to all of you for over 700 subscribers. So in today's video, I want to present a new setup that allows to check globally if the player either got an item or loses an item. Sadly, it only works for fire flowers and the special item, for example the cape or the tanuki or whatever it is, and not for shelmets, because the basic idea on how to check if the player gets or loses this power up is by using the lag that it creates when you collect or lose a mushroom or something like that. Because whenever you do that, it creates a little lag. The idea of using this is pretty old. I saw this at least a year ago in a level by Giant, the guy who also created the calculator level. But I've never seen it used in a global way. So whenever you have one of these setups like here, with two power blocks, one on a track and the other one on top of it, you can notice that there's always a small gap when the power block is moving down, and this gap gets bigger if the game lags while it's there, and that means in that time if we collect or lose a power up, it causes the top power block to fall down. That's the basic idea on how to check for this. And since the game doesn't lag, if you collect shelmets or lose shelmets, it doesn't work with them, but it works with mushrooms, fire flowers and the style specific item. So right here, this was my idea on how to create a setup that immediately reacts and does something once Mario collects or loses a power up. The idea is the following. Off screen, things on tracks and things that are on top of things on tracks will not despawn. That basically means everything that you can see here does not despawn off screen, at least not immediately. So these platforms are all on tracks, that means the P-switch will not despawn, also the Koopa will not despawn. This power block is on tracks, that means the power block will not despawn, and since the power block and the launcher fall on top of that, they will also not despawn. However, if they are moving downwards and this lag gap is created, then it will cause the top power block and the launcher to despawn. And that means whenever Mario loses or gets the power up, then the launcher will despawn and the Koopa can walk over and hit the P-switch. Now, this setup alone would only work half the time, since it only works while the power block is going down. That's why I copied the setup and just changed the direction of the power block on a track. Since now I can make sure that whenever I lose or get a power up, at least one power block is moving down. That means at least one launcher will despawn, and that means at least one P-switch will get activated. So now it should theoretically work, at least I thought that when I first made this setup. It only works off screen, so it will not work as long as the launchers are on screen, because then they won't despawn, of course. But from somewhere over here or whatever, when the second launcher is also off screen and not loaded anymore, at least not loaded normally, then it will take effect that if it despawns, the Koopa can go across. So for now, I will just put these Koopas in the air, because that's the final step that you need to do, and why I need to do that, I will explain it later, but for now, just to show that the setup works, I have Big Mario right here. If you get immediately a mushroom anywhere on the first screen, as I said, it will still work like normally. So only once I reach this area right here, whenever I get hit or I collect another power-up, I will then activate the P-switch. So here I have a contraption to test this. If I get hit, the P-switch activates. Also, if I collect the fire flower, the same thing will happen, since these both interactions will create the lag that is needed. So that's the setup, and as I said, the final step was to make the Koopas appear in the air, and why this is important is something that I didn't know before. But when I tried to make this setup, I somehow figured out that the first enemy that is directly on top of a platform, if the platform is off screen, it will not be loaded properly. So we can easily test this. If I have a Goomba right here, it is on screen, at least in the horizontal way, not in the vertical way. So if the Goomba would load normally, it should walk off the platform and fall down. But as you can see, there's no Goomba falling down at all. So my first guess was that these items are not loaded at all, or these enemies, because for whatever reason P-switches or power blocks are not affected by this. So as I said, my first guess was that they wouldn't load at all. So now we can also test this by stacking another Goomba on top of it. If the Goomba down here would not load at all, that means that this one would load in the air, fall on top of the platform and then walk down. If I have the Goomba spawning in the air, it will walk down, so just to make sure that this works. So if this Goomba on the bottom wouldn't load at all, then we should also get the second Goomba to fall down. But once again, nothing happens. So then I came to the conclusion that the game must be a little bit confused in that situation. And my guess is that it loads that there is something, but it doesn't really load what, or at least it doesn't load how it moves. So it must be loaded in some way, since the top Goomba still seems to be stacked on top of the other one. However, as long as the bottom one doesn't move, the top one will also not move. And that's why I guess that the bottom one is just loaded that there is an enemy, but not really how this enemy moves or that it moves at all. So that's the last and newest part about all this that I found out, and that's also the reason why it will not work if the Koopas immediately spawn on top of the platforms. And that's it for today, and I hope you enjoyed the video.